Every time a new Smash game comes our way, the fan base runs through a roller coaster of emotions as their favorite characters' odds of joining the fight rise and fall. Each new reveal tells us a little more that we didn't know before, and that itself affects how we perceive the chances of other aspiring newcomers. Sometimes it can really hurt, seeing a character you've grown so invested in have their hopes crumble before your eyes. But it's something we need to go through and process and emerge on the other side. This is something that we, as a community, must always remember and accept, the odds changing from what we expected. Poeticness aside, such changes are just a natural result of there being a lot we don't know of until after the fact. We're trying to predict design decisions that go on behind closed doors with the express purpose of not letting us find out until they're finished. We can pick up on a few things by reading between the lines, and we do know a lot about Sakurai's personal design philosophy through all the articles he's written and interviews he's taken part in, but beyond that, we're pretty much flying blind here. Because of that, Smash speculators have a habit of getting caught off guard. A lot. We tend to make a lot of hasty assumptions as a community that come around and pull the rug out from under our collective feet. Remember when there was no chance we'd get a second Mario newcomer after Rosalina? Or when our only options for Pokemon newcomers were Zoroark or a retooled Mega Mewtwo? Or when this guy was deemed completely impossible despite his home series' long past with Nintendo? Or say the idea of every veteran from Smash history coming back again. Gotta admit, I didn't see most of those coming myself. But they all make sense in hindsight, due to what we learned in the time since. And so we're best off taking that newfound knowledge and adapting our expectations accordingly. A curveball reveal doesn't mean everything we knew before was a lie, it just means there were details we weren't aware of, as long as we interpret things correctly at least. And we can even reduce the chance of us getting blindsided if we learn from these examples instead of making knee-jerk assumptions and chasing whatever latest rumor tells us what we already wanted to believe. If we keep track of past decisions and keep an ear to the ground on the latest major game releases, while accounting for development times in the context of Ultimate's own window of development and release date, then we'll be that much more capable of narrowing things down to figuring out exactly who will join the fight next. And that brings us to our challenger. A character with a very unique set of skills who has become a very big deal very quickly, something that anyone who's followed their home series closely has probably noticed. With the same starring role as two previous newcomers before it, this challenger has everything it needs to be a standout fighter, and Ultimate's roster reveals so far have only made it more compelling of a choice. And yet, most speculators haven't even noticed nor accounted for it. Well, I've had an eye on this one for a while now. Maybe I've noticed something that others haven't, maybe I'm just biased. But before you dismiss this all offhand, hear me out, and let me introduce you to a frontrunner that almost no one is talking about. Lycanroc is a rock-type Pokemon from the franchise's 7th generation, the evolved form of Rockruff, and the first true wolf Pokemon the series has had. Hard to think it took 20 years for something as basic as that, huh? This evolutionary line's claim to fame is there are 3 distinct forms a Lycanroc can have, varying based on the circumstances a Rockruff evolves in. There's the calm and deeply loyal midday form that prefers to avoid conflict, and the rowdy midnight form that actively seeks out combat and goads potential opponents into fighting, and will question commands from anyone they don't personally trust. But right now, we're interested in the 3rd form, the rare Dusk Lycanroc that takes the traits of both its counterparts and merges them into one entity. Midday's passiveness gives the Dusk form that same shy and careful nature under most circumstances, but Midnight's thirst for combat still rages within, and so while Dusk Lycanrocs will not fight unless threatened, or when in competition, once a battle is drawn, they enter the fray and hold nothing back. But a unique design and interesting lore alone doesn't make a Smash newcomer on its own, right? Especially from a series like Pokémon with such a gigantic playable cast, there needs to be something that lets a given Mon rise above the dozens of others from its generation. I could go on about Lycanroc's nature as a rock type and how we don't have anyone with essentially earth-based powers on the roster yet. I could bring up the dualistic nature across the forms, especially with how the Dusk form hybridizes the other two. But we have other Mons from Gen 7 with their own claims for uniqueness, some of which have been getting far more attention from speculators. So why does this one in particular have such a notable chance? So, even if you haven't followed the Pokemon anime, you probably remember how Ash had a Greninja on his Kalos team, basically his signature Mon for the region. Since a lot of the playable Pokemon in Smash are inspired by the anime to some extent, Greninja's inclusion in Smash 4 was probably decided with the anime's plans for the Kalos saga in mind. And we know they account for future plans like this. Sakurai's gone on record himself to explain how they think ahead for Pokemon newcomers, since they're often choosing from mons whose generations aren't released yet at that point in Smash development. And that's the thing, because Ash has a Dusk Lycanroc in the anime right now, and it's playing the same role his Greninja did. With a greater focus on the rest of the team, a long list of achievements already, like taking on a recent Grand Trial single-handedly as part of the trial's rules, and even a personal character arc around learning to control its berserk midnight side in battle without losing control of itself, acting purely on instinct, and becoming predictable and easy to defeat. Now, I'm not one for gambling, but I think the odds are very high that Sakurai and his team would have been made aware of plans for all of this when they were choosing potential newcomers for Ultimate. But it's not just the anime where Lycanroc has become such a standout, no. The Alola games themselves have Lycanrocs of various forms as the signature mon of an Island Kahuna, eventually also an Elite Four member, the signature mon of the region's Professor, with one being the strongest consistent member of his team in Sun and Moon, as well as the base form Rockruff being the first Pokemon you see when starting a new file, and a promo for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon right at release, giving out a Rockruff capable of becoming a Dusk Lycanroc as essentially a second starter. Or how about the spin-off manga Pokemon Horizon, which tells the story of a rookie trainer and his Rockruff companion. Or even the boatload of merchandise the line has had over the last couple years. It says something that merch for Dusk Lycanroc was announced mere hours after its reveal, something almost unheard of for anything other than mythical Pokemon. In fact, the Dusk form in particular has actually outpaced even the Alola starters in merchandise since last August. All of this together shows that Lycanroc, as a whole, but particularly Dusk Lycanroc, has grown to the point of being a highly prominent non-starter to where it's basically Gen 7's Lucario. This alone would put it on the short list of Gen 7 mons to consider for Smash, and none of the other potential candidates have the standout role in the anime right now, nor wield an element that, with Charizard's Rock Smash being removed, is now completely absent from the roster. And having the veteran mons all back doesn't mean a new one would be less important or less worthy of inclusion. Not when this is Nintendo's second biggest franchise, and when Sakurai doesn't think in terms of reps. So while so many speculators still assume our options for Pokemon newcomers are Decidueye or bust, who would make for a more compelling newcomer right now? The second character with plant powers? Or the first Earthbender Smash has ever seen? Especially when Decidueye hasn't done anything in the anime outside of one bit roll in one episode, and when Ash's Rowlet hasn't even evolved at all yet. That's the thing, all of this has just been overlooked, and dismissing new information and sticking to first impressions over all else is exactly what gets Smash speculators blindsided so often. So the only question left now is, was Dusk Lycanroc's design finalized in time? The very first project plan for Ultimate dates back to the tail end of 2015, and Dusk didn't get an official reveal until August 2017. However, we know that during Smash 4's development, Sakurai and crew held off on choosing a new Pokemon, waited for Gen 6 to be further along in its own development, then were given pre-release assets from the Pokemon Company, and probably design notes, future plans, and other such details to give them as much information as possible. This delayed decision was what gave Greninja a chance last time, and I think the timing is just right for even the Dusk form of Lycanroc to have been an option this time. After all, there were placeholders for more forms on the global link the moment it was updated for Gen 7. Proof writ large that this design dates back further than it seems, and based on everything else we know, would have given the perfect window of opportunity to join the ultimate battle. But that's enough backstory for now. We've made a case for why this character has a legitimate chance, but how would it even fight? How would it stand out enough to be worth giving that chance? What would Dusk Lycanroc be like in Smash? As mentioned already, playable Pokemon in Smash Bros. Pull from a combination of sources to create a comprehensive interpretation of who they are. To perfectly capture this character, we'll need to pull from a mix of species lore, design details, attacks and animations from the games, and the personality and mannerisms of Ash's Lycanroc in the anime, just like with Greninja and Charizard before it. First off, what you see is what you get as far as appearances go. The striking orangish coat and bright green eyes take point as the default, seemingly based on a rare coloration that shows up in some breeds of dogs and wolf-dog hybrids. Who knew, right? If I had to guess, I think Smash would stick closer to the more faded, earthier orange used in the official art than the saturated tangerine from the games and some other artwork. Something similar happened with Greninja's colors last time, you see. Alternate palettes could pull from a variety of places. Other colors associated with stones or types of ore, other canine or canine-ish Pokemon like Mightyena and Manectric, or maybe they could sneak in an inter-series reference or two. Hey, Robin got a White Mage palette in Smash 4, so it's not out of the question. Though, I don't think we'll see the shiny colors show up. Smash has been weird about including those for whatever reason. Basic animations would also pull straight from Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, with idle animations of scraping at the ground like in the games, and looking around warily like Midday does when idle. The motion lines that show up during most attacks would be a brilliant orange matching the color of the setting sun. Fits, doesn't it? Interacting with items would be simpler than you'd think despite the quadrupedal build. It's not as difficult to work around as it initially seems when you can just pick items up with your mouth. Sure, it'd be weird trying to lug crates around by grabbing onto the corner and biting down, or operating a blaster or super scope with his teeth, but it's not like Smash tries to be realistic with its items to begin with. Having to take some creative liberties here isn't a deal breaker since items already create inherently silly situations anyway. Now let's get more in depth, and by that I mean playstyle, stats, and other attributes. Dusk Lycanrocs combine Midday's calmness and patience with Midnight's relentless fighting spirit, and we need just the right playstyle to bring that out. A bait and punish style lines up perfectly with how they're depicted as waiting to fight back until they're threatened. Combined with a few stage control elements based on Wolf's territorial natures and as a natural extension of being able to throw rocks around, and you have a combination unlike any playstyle we've seen yet. This concept has a focus on whiff punishing in particular, that is, getting opponents to whiff their attacks, then punishing them while they're left open afterward. It's another way of making Lycanroc more distinct, and it's a natural fit with the character's mobility. Speaking of which, fair warning, all of these stats are using Smash 4 as a point of reference for now. Ultimate has changed things, but we won't know what the new parameters will be until it's out. So we gotta make do for now and translate it into Ultimate's new stat ranges later. Size-wise, we're making the Smash incarnation of Lycanroc bigger than in the games because almost every playable Pokemon in Smash gets sized up to work better in the environment of a platform fighter. That impressive grounded movement comes from the Dusk form's 110 base speed in the games, and it's good enough for the 8th fastest dash speed of anyone in Smash 4, and would be similarly fast by Ultimate standards, whatever those end up being. Combined with the new dash cancel mechanics, it'll make for a very strong ground game befitting a character with an affinity for the Earth. The below-average airspeed also fits in Earthbender for similar reasons, as does the fast fall speed. Being a fast faller has its pros and cons. But there's one more thing we should talk about here. Remember that thing from before about Ash's Lycanroc having a special berserk state where his eyes glow like midnights that he just recently gained control over? Well, apparently it's not just an individual thing, because if you look closely in the games, you'll notice that same eye glow kicking in whenever any Dusk Lycanroc uses an attack. So, what if we work that into here too? Hitting with a special move, or maybe certain other circumstances, would set off a temporary enhanced state, complete with the glowing eyes and a faint aura the color of the setting sun. Any attacks you perform during this state would be sped up, allowing for short bursts of the relentless close-quarters combat mentioned in the lore while still maintaining a punish-based playstyle. We already have enhanced states that increase damage or movement, the one that speeds up frame data instead would stand out. Up next, Moveset. We've covered surface level details and stats, now how would Lycanroc's actual moves function? The jab combo would start with a quick forward jab with one forepaw, then a downward swing of the head to knock opponents away with a stone mane. A two-hit jab like what DK or Bowser have, it'd act as a quick disruptor for tacking on some damage. For Lycanroc's forward tilt, a downward vertical swipe with one forelimb. A decent spacing tool when used out of a pivot or dash cancel, but it's nothing amazing. Don't worry, the up tilt's more interesting. A quick backflip in place to strike anyone overhead. Great as an anti-air, but not without drawbacks, like a lack of disjoint to beat out other attacks instead of clanking with them, or having enough end lag that it's not a combo starter unless you have Fury active. Then Lycanroc's down tilt is another claw swipe, at the ground, kicking up a small cloud of dust based on the move's sand attack. It's multi-hit and lasts a while, but once again, there's enough end lag that you'll struggle to convert anything off it if you don't have Fury going. And for the dash attack, a running tackle based on, well, tackle. A very useful tool for whiff punishing when combined with Lycanroc's running speed. It's perfect for winning neutral, catching landings, and setting up juggle opportunities. But what about smash attacks? Lycanroc's forward smash would have him lunge forward and bite, complete with the fanged energy projection they've been using in the anime. Slow to come out, it makes up for it with surprising reach and disjoint and hitting hard. Best used out of a pivot for punishing bad spacing on a landing aerial or the like. Then Lycanroc howls in place for his up smash, summoning a stone stalagmite that stabs upward out of the ground and hits anyone nearby or above. Inspired by the move Stone Edge, it's kinda like Sylvanos' up smash in function, except with a more vertical angle and less ridiculous range. Another powerful kill option, this move's still slow and not quite as strong as the forward smash, but potentially easier to hit with. Then the down smash as Lycanroc slam both forelimbs into the ground, forcing stone spikes upward on either side. With more horizontal reach than the up smash, but less vertical coverage, it's an alternative. So what does a character with an earth affinity do for an air game? Lycanroc's neutral air would be a rapid sideways spin. Think kinda like Sonic's forward air animation-wise, creating a ring of stones that rotate around him vertically. A long-lasting multi-hitter with hitboxes both on the body and the rocks. It'd deal a lot of damage if every hit connects and be both a combo finisher and landing aid, but it'd probably be unsafe as hell on shield. Then the forward air would be another bite, but quicker and without the energy projection. Less power makes it less of a kill option, but faster frame data makes it a useful combo tool at low to mid percents. Lycanroc's back air would just be a simple hind kick. Nothing too complicated, but it gets the job done. And by that I mean enough knockback that it's your best option for killing in the air. Lycanroc's up air is unusual. A half flip upward to strike with a stone main, kinda like you see here. With solid damage and alright combo ability, it'd be more of a niche move due to its weird and kinda narrow hitbox. Then the down air, how about creating a boulder at his feet out of thin air, then kicking it straight down for a hard-hitting spike? As slow as you'd expect and traveling about as far as Mega Man's down air before falling apart, it'd be a brutal way to end a stock off stage, if you can time it right. It'd also have a weaker hit as the boulder comes together, which wouldn't combo into the spike as that'd be OP, but it'd still have its uses. So how do we handle the grab game? Simple enough, Lycanroc's grabs would just use his mouth. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Would have a kinda lackluster standing grab, but really good dash and pivot grabs, to emphasize punishing whiffed attacks instead of relying on out of shield stuff. The quote-quote pummel would involve biting down on the opponent, similar to Charizard's pummel in function, while being a little slower but stronger. Lycanroc's forward throw would just toss your victim forward, for decent damage and positional advantage. The back throw would have him short hop in place and dramatically fling the opponent backward, eventually becoming an above average kill throw. If you notice, this concept is built more to prefer killing off the side rather than vertically, sunset and all. Lycanroc's up throw would have him soft toss the opponent, then summon a stone from the ground that knocks them upward, dealing the most damage of the throws and therefore working best when you can't combo or kill off the others. And the down throw would be another short hop in place, this time dramatically fling the opponent downward and having them bounce off the ground. A go-to combo throw, it lead into all kinds of stuff at low to mid percents, a cornerstone of Lycanroc's punish game that forced opponents to be wary about relying on their shields in neutral. Finally, there's some flexibility for taunts, but you gotta have one be a dramatic skyward howl. It's obligatory. One last thing to round this concept out. Lycanroc's special moves. Starting off at neutral, the line's signature move, Acceleroc. This rock-type priority move is exclusive to Midday and Dusk Lycanrocs, giving them a way to strike even the fastest of opponents before they can act again. In Smash, Lycanroc would pause for a brief moment, then charge forward about a third the length of battlefield while shrouded in a thin cloud of dust. Connecting with Acceleroc would deal multiple hits and only minor knockback, making it an effective combo starter all the way up until high percents. But that's not all. Remember that Fury gimmick from before? Landing Acceleroc would trigger that enhanced state on hit, and the more hits that connect, the longer it'd last, giving you up to 5 seconds of relentless offensive pressure to continue your combo or harass your opponent as they try to land. Careful though, as since it's a bunch of weak hits chained together, it deals hardly any shield damage, and has a ton of end lag if it doesn't hit anyone. Accelerock is a whiff-punish tool tailor-made for Lycanroc's preferred playstyle. Catch your opponents overextending, then charge into them to gain the advantage and make them pay. For Lycanroc's side special, we're bringing in competitive trainers' least favorite move, Stealth Rock. Learned naturally by the Rockruff line, it sets a trap of pointed stones that stab any opponents who switch into battle. And how could we add a rock type to Smash and not use this thing? The Smash version of Stealth Rock would have Lycanroc generate a diamond-shaped stone and toss it forward, where it embed into the first flat surface it reaches, stage, platform, or otherwise. There it'd sit and be visible for everyone to see, until an opponent gets too close. Then it'd rise up, stab them for damage, and pop them upward for easy follow-ups. It'd also give you several seconds of fury if it connects to really let you lay down the hurt. Stealth Rock is Lycanroc's main source of stage control. Catching someone with it is nice and all, but the fear of it is just as important. Toss it somewhere your opponent likes to go, and now they have to be wary about hanging around that part of the stage. And so their room to move around is limited, while yours isn't. Keep in mind though, only one rock can be placed at a time. You have to wait for the first to disappear after about 20 seconds before you can throw another, and they get destroyed after they activate. So what do we do for a recovery move? Well, how about Rock Climb? In the games, this lets you scale certain surfaces in the overworld, and repurposes the same movements in combat for damage and a chance to cause confusion, and it's weird, okay? Well, in Smash, we're going to put more emphasis on the rock part. Pressing up and B would summon a large boulder at Lycanroc's feet, wider and flatter than the down air one, and then he'd kick off it to propel himself to safety as a few chunks of the boulder fly off to cover him. It's unconventional and wouldn't go very far, think Roy's Blazer distance-wise, but between the starting and protective hitboxes, the odds are strong that you will get that distance. Between this move and Accelerock, you have a couple mix-ups available for recovering. Getting back to the stage as Lycanroc would be about timing your actions to overpower edgeguard attempts and plow through them to make it back to the stage. Just be careful not to get hit so far back that neither move can save you. Though it'd be a bit easier if the foothold rock hit someone, as it'd give you a short burst of fury that worked differently for this move in particular and have the jump part of the move take you further. A poorly done edgeguard on your opponent's part might make it easier for you to recover. And for the down special, we're going to pull out the other move associated with this line. Well, sort of. Counter is learned by the Midnight form instead of Accelerock, and the Dusk form learns it as well, letting you tank an opposing physical attack and then retaliate for twice the damage. But with so many countering moves in Smash already, we need to do something unique with this one. So, for one, successfully triggering Counterstone won't actually stop you from taking damage. Just like its inspiration, all it does is let you armor through the hit and let you strike back with a headbutt as described here. For two, the counterattack here actually wouldn't be all that powerful on its own. So just what is this thing's upside? Well, triggering it and connecting with the counterattack would set off a fury state that lasts longer the higher percent you're at and the stronger the attack you counter. At most, this thing would give an enhanced state for up to 20 seconds. Counterstone functions differently than other counters by creating momentum instead of an instant reward. Save it for the right time and capitalize on it, and you'll be able to convert into a long burst of pressure to rack up a frightening amount of damage or land your kill moves much more easily. Finally, we have Lycanroc's Final Smash, and it's a move that is built perfectly for it. One of the Z moves introduced in Gen 7, Splintered Storm Shards, is an immensely enhanced limit break version of Stone Edge exclusive to this line. Pressing B with the power of a Smash Ball causes an aura of Z power to flare up as the ground immediately in front of you fractures and kicks up a cloud of rocks and dust. Any poor saps caught in the impact would be whisked away to a cinematic finisher straight from Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, as a piercing howl tears the very earth asunder into a lethal storm of stone projectiles that blots out the sky. And as an added bonus, since the original Splintered Storm Shards destroys any terrain effects as a bonus, this version will destroy any items, traps, or summons in play that aren't under your control. All of this is what Dusk Lycanroc can bring to Smash. With the power of the earth and the mark of the setting sun, this unconventional fighter brings a unique take on its playstyle in a way no one else can measure up to. Staying calm and neutral, controlling the stage to cut off opponents' movement, and retaliating once they show aggression leads to seizing those openings and racking up damage or landing a finishing blow. This latent icon of Alola may prefer not to start fights, but it will finish them. Lycanroc's greatest asset is a combination of fast grounded movement, which is more useful now than ever, and high damage output and kill power, on top of an enhanced state that makes the latter two even more pronounced. Mix in the ability to control parts of the stage, and you have a character built to corral opponents and capitalize on the slightest mistake. However, being reliant on grounded movement in neutral and leaning on specific moves for your best conversions makes for a predictable neutral that at times must rely on mind games. Being a fast faller with a recovery that doesn't go far is a dangerous combination against opponents with strong combos and edge guards, and this concept as a whole is kind of vulnerable to zoning, particularly the disjoint zoning used by the likes of Marth or Corrin. As you can see, there's a lot of untapped potential here, and it's a damn shame that so many speculators haven't realized it's there. At the risk of coming off biased or even deluded, hopefully I've done this character justice and maybe even convinced you of why they're a worthy newcomer for Ultimate. And with how things have gone in the Pokemon franchise proper lately, especially the anime, I think we're looking at not only the most likely new Pokemon, but one of the most likely newcomers overall. And the Dusk form isn't even our only option here. The timing of Ultimate's very first project plan, plus transformations being back in limited fashion with the Pokemon Trainer, means the door may be open for a concept that shifts between midday and midnight forms with similar moves between the two, but different stats and knockback values. Who knows, maybe my old outdated concept from late 2016 might still be worth looking at. We could even get a midday plus midnight concept, and then Dusk as an Echo Fighter of midday that can't transform. Okay, I admit that's getting into tinfoil hat territory, but it's worth considering. Special thanks for this video goes to Voyager for working his magic and giving Challenger Approaching a brand new look far above anything I was capable of prior on my own. And thanks to all of my patrons for supporting me all this way. If you're interested in helping out, there's a link in the description and in the end screen coming up soon. So, how have your thoughts on potential newcomers changed since Ultimate's first trailer back in March? Are there any characters or other ideas for this game that you've changed your mind on in the time since? Let's hear your take on it in the comments. And so, until next time, may the sun, or moon, or sunset guide you onward.